Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, Newton offers excuses. Also, the V-Team takes a look at expensive time machines. And Speaker Mike Hubbard is caught cheating.
Shazam! Shazam! Golly! Shazam! Golly! 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 Shazam! Golly! Gosh! Golly! Shazam! Shazam! Golly! Golly! Shazam!
Yeah, Shazam. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V.
The Voice of Alabama Politics, with your host, Bill Brett, and the V-Team with Claire Austin, Susan Britt, Jack Campbell, Baron Coleman, Charlana Spencer, and special reports with Jonathan Barbie. Now, the #1 political show in Alabama, The V.
Welcome to The V, the voice of Alabama politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by the V-Team. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Normally, this time of year is a snoozer. There's no action. There's nothing going on. But these last couple of weeks, it has been one story after another, fast and furious. Much of it centering around the State Department of Finance, despite the $47 million debacle that is their new accounting and payment software. There have been other bad choices. But last week, Bill Newton took to the press to say, all is well, we're just doing fine. It was a glitch. Susan, glitch, all well?
Is that what he likes to call his personnel? Because that's who he was blaming it on.
Yeah.
He's saying that it's because the personnel don't know how to use the software. It's all going to be cleared up in a couple of weeks. I can tell you from a project manager's perspective, there's no way it's cleared up in 2 weeks. There's no way these people get paid. But to turn around and blame not blame the software company that's responsible for it, but blame the personnel on which they imposed this, that's just ludicrous. That's ridiculous for him to do that.
But Beth, this is a failure of leadership.
It is. It is. Let's not forget, this is a $47 million no-bid contract at a time when our state is literally pinching pennies. And so we now have this $47 million no-bid project that's not working, and our state employees are taking the blame for it, when clearly the problem is at the top here.
You know, right in the middle of this debacle, Jack, Newton goes on a 2-week European vacation. I mean,
Must be
that's pretty
nice.
nice. He can just jet off to Europe with Chevy Chase in the gang.
Yeah, and you know, he says it's no big deal. You tell that to a state employee who was ordered to go on a conference where they get credits for their job, and they have to front the money. They put their credit card down at a hotel. They eat their meals out. They come back and submit a reimbursement. 3 months later, they're not paid. That's pretty bad. 23,000 vendors through the Department of Transportation alone have outstanding invoices of over 3 and 4 months. That is bad management.
It is. Bill, I have a question for Mr. Newton. If his employees are so incompetent that they can't handle this software, then why did we pay $47 million to this company? Why weren't they training these employees? Why weren't they trained up to spec before this was ever launched?
Yeah.
And if these agencies are having to retrofit their software, why do we pay $47 million to an outside company when we got our own state employees doing the work?
Well, we have an IT, in-house IT that built the prior program.
But that makes too much sense. Hold on. Somebody can't get any money out of that.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, and this is a serious issue that the Attorney General's office should be looking into, and law enforcement needs to come along on this one. It is a no-bid contract for big bucks. You know, we were looking at this, and all of a sudden we found out that, Jack, they replaced the time, you know, the punch cards where you punch in at the State House or at your job, and they've got these thumbprint machines now. and they're costing the state $4 million a year, and almost nobody's using them.
But they don't
Whose
work.
brother-in-law owns that company is what I want to know.
I want to know
Somebody-
who got a kickback out of this $47 million, and I want to know who got a kickback out of this little thumbprint punch card system.
And I remember when this was going around the State House, we had first started Alabama Political Reporter, and I remember him saying, oh, well, this is going to save us so much money because it'll keep, so-and-so for checking his buddy in when he really didn't show up for work. Wait a minute. We're saving $4,740,000 just because one person didn't show up for work a day?
Well, the thing is, most departments don't need it. Most departments, you go in and you send an email to your boss, and they write it down. Well, I had one department head told me that they now have a whole new job, because they have to look at these time things on their computer and match them up over here and do it. Had to go to training for several days. And she was like, I didn't need another state job that I don't get compensated
Yet
for.
she hasn't gotten a raise since, 2008 as well?
Yeah, right.
On top of that?
Didn't Roy Johnson get in a little trouble a few years ago
No bid for
on a
less-
no-bid
what,
contract?
Less than $1 million, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like
He got fired.
$400,000, and it ended up being $800,000.
Yeah, that was and Roy got fired before he went to prison. But that was the first kind of chink in the armor. You're right, Jack. It's a good point. And also he did that. Winston Hayes did a bunch of kickbacks to Roy Johnson, and he did some time and paid some fines. He pled guilty. This thing, I think what Beth is saying and you're saying, this thing stinks. There's more to this.
You ever
than
dealt
just
with the finance
film.
department? It is an edifice of arrogance over there.
It is.
It is
And-
absolutely, they don't care what public opinion is.
Never mind the fact that with this time clock machine, not all departments can use it. In order for state troopers to use it, it costs $45 per employee per month for them to be able to use this out in the field. How ridiculous is this?
Well, it's crazy when the troopers now just pick up and go, I'm rolling.
Right. I'm going home.
Yeah, I mean, they know the voice. It's not like they're cheating.
Right. Well, like I said, it's hard to get a kickback. We've got an in-state IT department doing software for the state of Alabama. There's no money leaving the state system, so it's hard for anybody to make any money off that. So, if you want to send money to Texas or somewhere, then you would need to have that money come through an outside company, and that's what I want to know is where's this $47 million going?
Well, and
think she hit
we
a
don't
nerve
know
there.
that that's happening, but it could be. And the fact,
Texas is just an example.
right? Well, the fact that Rex McDowell, who is a Montgomery native, actually lives in Texas. He has a place here, but he lives in Texas. His driver's license, according to a report by Bob Lowry, is from Texas. He's a registered voter in Texas, but yet he gets paid $170,000 here. And on his ethics forms, he said he works a third of his time in Texas.
Does he have a punch clock for that?
I don't think they have those in finance.
Maybe we should get a punch clock for him.
If he's a state employee, why not other state employees? Doesn't he have to show up 5 days a week?
Well, I don't understand how you commute from Texas. I mean, you used to live in Texas,
I
Jack.
did, but I didn't commute.
I mean, that's a pretty substantial. But in all seriousness, Rex McDowell is one of the guys behind this.
Yes.
And, Governor Bentley has said he wanted to be a transformative governor. The Republicans have said they wanted accountability, and these characters need to go.
And I
Somebody needs to
think
handle
Governor
the ticket.
Bentley could give the taxpayers an early Christmas and shake up the Department of Finance.
Well, a lot of the Republicans in Alabama like Donald Trump. They could. What's one of Donald Trump's favorite slogans?
I don't know, Bill.
You're fired.
Yeah.
All right, you're watching the V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Party rocking around the Christmas tree. Have a happy holiday. Everyone dancing merrily in the new old-fashioned way.
The V is sponsored by Spot On Strategies Group.
$20. It won't buy much in the way of Christmas cheer. Yet it means plenty of hope for the homeless. Your $20 feeds 10 at the Jimmy Hale Mission. The more you give, the more we feed. Help us nurture those with nothing else and show them the true spirit of the season. To give, please call 323-5878 or visit jimmyhalemission.com today.
Sadly, this happens too often in families with autistic children.
First nightmare, their child wanders off, disappears, and is nowhere to be found.
Where her body was found just a couple hours ago.
An autistic boy wanders away from home and dies.
Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell rock. Jingle bells swing and jingle bells ring. Snowing and blowing.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. An exchange of letters between the Macon County DA and the sheriff to Governor Robert Bentley seemed to open the door for Milton McGregor to reopen VictoryLand. Susan, this is a big deal if the Supreme Court and Luther Strange will get out of the way.
It's a huge deal. Basically, the DA and the sheriff expressed to the governor that they will stay within the constitutional confines of what's supposed to be a bingo machine, how this is supposed to be handled, and that if any machine were to be questioned, that the manufacturer would be given 60 days to remove that machine before it gets seized. The governor responded and said, this sounds like a good deal to me. As long as you stay within the laws, then I think I'm okay with this.
He said he felt very comfortable with them doing it, didn't he, Beth?
He did, and this is, the biggest victory here is the people of Macon County, because when VictoryLand shut down, job applications everywhere else, and there's not a lot in Macon County to offer job prospects, but job applications went through the roof, unemployment requests went through the roof, and it really hurt the community badly there. So this is a tremendous opportunity for that area for some economic development.
Jack, this is a poor rural community that provided good paying jobs, single mothers, we all hear, families that want to better themselves. And I know you, like I, like Luther Strange, appreciate the job he's done, but what is on Luther Strange's mind to keep him going after this?
I have no earthly idea, and I have tried to figure it out. He sent out a letter or memo last January to DAs and sheriffs saying we meaning the AG's office, getting out of the bingo business and the raiding of facilities, and it's going to be up to local law enforcement. Shashi rules, and now he appeals it. Supreme Court, I guess, is going to, I'm so confused. Every time you pick up the paper, well, you don't pick up the paper anymore, but anytime you read about this stuff, you become more confused.
Well, and Susan, Jack's right. He sent a mixed signal, and I understand he wants to follow through on this case, but who is the real winner if you keep VictoryLand closed? We've got gambling in this state, right?
Right. The real winner here is going to be the Porch Creek. What's going to happen is if they keep on with Milton, then eventually the Porch Creek are going to have gaming all over the state. They're going to be the majority. They're going to control the elections here. That's just the bottom line.
Well, and that doesn't make sense at all either, because Porch Creek dumped $1 million against Luther Strange in the last election.
Yeah.
So you think if there was somebody he would be trying to hurt, it'd be like, yeah, let's open VictoryLand. Let's open all of them. Let's take as much business away from Porch Creek as possible.
You would think so.
But the only thing I can think of on this is that he's trying to preserve his primary credentials for something down the road. And I don't know what that might be, but he's term limited as AG, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Jack, from a political standpoint, this is suicide. The people behind, Luther could get hurt over this. It ain't going to help him.
I think the vacillation makes him look weak. Mm-hmm. Take a stand one way or the other and stick to it. Instead of sending mixed signals out, getting everybody's hopes up to rejuvenate the economy in Macon County, which, quite frankly, is terrible right now. Make up your mind. Either go for it or keep your mouth shut.
Well, I think Governor Bentley has made it completely clear. This is a local issue. Stay out of it. And his agreement with these people could not be more clear, that Governor Bentley and the DA down there, they think that this is legal and should be done.
They have a constitutional amendment that says so.
Yeah, and VictoryLand is not mentioned. The constitutional amendment that allows for VictoryLand was not mentioned in the Cornerstone
It
case.
was not. It was omitted from that listing.
An interesting thing this week, we ran an editorial from Senator Gerald Dial, one of my favorite senators. General Dial has always been kind to us. He and Beth have gone head to head before in an election campaign. But basically it could be summed up that the people of Alabama, especially educators, education, and those in need are Scrooged. Beth, what would you say to that?
Right. I mean, I'd say that Senator Dahl was elected back in the 70s as a Democrat, and it seems like he's going back to his roots with this one.
That's gonna hurt.
He's legislated very well as a Democrat until it was advantageous to become a Republican. But, he's right. That we want to talk about welfare queens and handouts to people, and we kind of ignore the fact that Alabama is the handout recipient for the United States. We get more money from the federal government than we put into it. And if we were to leave, the nation would probably have more money without us around because they're sending so many resources in to help Alabama with education, with transportation, with all of these things.
Why is it, Jack, that, this is historical? I mean, one of the leading indicators, if not the leading indicator of a person's success in life is poverty and education. If they're born into poverty and they get no education, and this really should be a conservative idea because around the world, it's the conservatives that have lifted people out of poverty.
I think Republicans have, quite frankly, and my party for many years, as the members of the legislature were Republicans, not all of them, but some in leadership, have turned their backs on public education. We're robbing classrooms instead of putting money into them where they belong. And it's a shame that, not everybody can send their kid to a private school. And you look in North Alabama, and there are a lot of great public schools up there, and you're taking 1,000 this year, 1,000 next year out of each classroom. That hurts, especially when teachers are having to buy their own supplies and things like that.
And they're making less today than they were 6 years ago.
And compassion should not carry a partisan label. I mean, really.
Well, I mean, if we want people to get out of poverty, we're going to have to educate them.
They have to be educated.
And they're going to have some food to eat, and they're going to have a place to live. I mean, come on. These are basics.
This is Psychology 101. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They teach you this in your first freshman year psychology course.
And we've started the school lunch programs and school breakfast programs because it's proven that children that are fed learn better.
Well, one thing I have constantly said about our state, we can do better. Our people are undereducated. They are unhealthy, and they are underemployed. And we can do better as a state. But Beth, it just seems like our leaders would rather pontificate and stand on a soapbox than actually get down and get their knuckles
They'd rather dump $47 million in no big contracts. I mean, think about how many textbooks you could buy with $47 million. Think about how many more teaching units you could put in our classrooms with that money. I mean, it's just about priorities. We always say the budgets say where your priorities are, and it's becoming very clear where the supermajority's priorities are on this.
We're going to leave it right there. You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
What are you doing? New Year's Eve.
Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. This last week, Chief Justice Roy Moore sent a letter to Governor Bentley reminding him once again that the court system is desperately underfunded. Court employees have not received a pay raise or a merit promotion only once since 2008. Justice Moore held a press conference. He's now written Governor Bentley a letter, says, I need $12 million. Why are they ignoring Chief Justice Moore?
Well, if I were that bunch running the state right now, I would be afraid of every court system in Alabama. But no, it's ridiculous. I mean, look how long a trial takes. I mean, look at this Mike Hubbard trial, for God's sake. It started 2 years ago, and it still hadn't gone to trial. Right. I mean, that's one example. You got courthouses all over the state closing one day a week, where people can't go and conduct business, file lawsuits, get driver's licenses renewed, hunting, all that stuff. I mean, you'd have to be blind to not know there's a problem with funding. And yes, the court system deserves the money that Justice Moore is seeking.
I mean, they bring in a ton of money to the general fund, Beth. I mean, they are big funders of the general fund.
Right, and whether it's, you're paying for your traffic tickets or you're paying court costs, they self-fund as a system.
Right.
And it's the one branch of government, I would say, that has the most dramatic impact on people's lives. Because if you're in the court system, you are going through a difficult time in your life. There's nobody that wakes up in the morning and is like, oh, I get to go to court today. This is going to be fun. That's just not something that happens. People who are tangled up in the court system need it to be resolved speedy and efficiently so they can get back to their lives. And we owe it to the people of the state to do that.
Well, I agree. And the other branches have been given pay raises and promotions and all that. While the legislature gave themselves the pay raise.
Yes, they did.
But they love themselves a lot, don't they, Jack?
Yeah, they're kind of fond of themselves.
Steve Flowers has been handicapping the 2018 gubernatorial race and coming in at number 2. His number 2, he thinks the number 2 guy to be in the race next year is Chief Justice Roy Moore.
He does.
Yeah,
I can see it. I can see that. Roy Moore's always had a strong pull in the state of Alabama. Always has, always will. He has his own faction of the Republican Party that will stick with him through thick or thin. And, as weak as Governor Bentley has been, I think people are looking for a strong leader. And Roy Moore has shown this in his role as justice. He's really shown that he is a good leader.
I mean, Jack, Roy Moore has a floor, but does he have a ceiling?
Yeah, he's over 70. He can't run again for the court.
Right.
He can run for governor. It's interesting. He's always pulled more votes in his campaigns for judicial posts than he has running for governor. But he'll get his 17, 18, 20, 21% of the vote. And in a crowded field, look at this Trump, Rubio, that could put you in a runoff.
I mean, there are going to be 5 or 6 candidates, aren't there, Beth? Just on the Republican side.
There will be. And if the rhetoric keeps up at the rate it is, where we have people who are scared that we're going to be living under Sharia law, they are scared about, Muslim immigrants coming into this country, whether those fears are well-founded or not, they certainly have taken root here in Alabama. And I think someone who has gone to bat for putting the 10 Commandments in the courthouse is exactly the kind of candidate those people will gravitate towards.
Well, I wouldn't have a problem with a Governor Moore. It just wouldn't bother me at all. I tell you who it would bother, though, Porch Creek Indians. They wouldn't be real happy about a Judge Moore because he ain't going to play footsie with anybody.
No, but I tell you who, and Steve Flowers puts this one person ahead of Roy Moore, the one person in all of this state that has a chance of winning, and that's the dark horse. We've seen it time and time again. Somebody from out of nowhere, Bentley's another one. Somebody from nobody's ever heard of this person just takes over the governor's race and ends up being the governor.
I mean, Jack, you followed these races for years. I mean, that does happen quite often. That's the number 1 pick for Steve Flowers, the unknown.
Well, if you look at Fob James from 1978, guy that owns a company in Opelika, nobody's ever heard of him, and he emerges and in a crowded field of some very well-known names, Brewer, Baxley, Beasley, he wins. I mean, it does happen. Of course, Guy Hunt was kind of a fluke because of in-party fighting, but you never know what's going to happen.
From Holly Pond, Alabama.
Yeah.
Who'd ever heard of that?
Well, and you know, I mean, there's a lot of good candidates out there, but who they're going to be, nobody knows right now. But I think, you know, on my pick, you know, I think you got Roy Moore, you got John McMillan
Merrill
is a good one.
You got John Merrill.
Of course, Luther Strange is going to run. There's some Tommy Battle up there. There's some good folks out there who could win.
It's going to be interesting.
Depends on, but I think Moore starts out with, like Jack said, maybe 20%, just because his name ID.
Right.
One thing we want to get here, we got about 2 minutes left. Mike Hubbard, legal team, like I like to call them his criminal lawyers, got caught cheating last week, breaking the rules of the court, issuing subpoenas. And Beth, you looked at this?
I have, and like I said, they're going with their strategy. If you can't win on the facts, they're going to start winning on procedure. And it looks like they've given up winning on procedure, and they're just going to start winning however they can. And they're going to scrape at the bottom of the barrel, use all the dirty tactics, and you know the judge is going to throw the book at it. I'm sitting on it right now, but when I get done sitting on it, he's going to throw it at him.
I mean, Judge Walker was no nonsense. He told them they did wrong.
They did do wrong. They asked for the documentation from Alicourt to be sent directly to defense. That is totally illegal to do. Anything that's requested in a subpoena has to go before the judge first. The judge determines who gets to see it, if anyone gets to see it. Mark White and Augusta Dowd knew that was out of the bounds.
Yeah, but they thought that Judge Walker was just going to just kind of roll over and let him pat his stomach like he's done in the past. He didn't do it this time, Jack.
Well, I think in Judge Walker's defense, he does not want this case. This is probably one of Alabama's biggest cases ever.
Yeah.
With public corruption and public officials involved. He wants to dot every I and cross every T.
Listen,
I don't blame him.
Judge Walker is a good judge. He's
I heard he was a little irritated beyond most of his past irritation.
Who wouldn't
over
be
this
at
fact,
all the crap they're throwing at him?
I don't blame you. We're going to have to leave it right there. We had some very sad news this week. A member of the V Team's family, Claire Austin, her mother passed away. Ginger Austin was a wonderful woman, loved by all, a true Republican and a true patriot of Alabama. She will be missed. We want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and come back and see us. We'll be here next week. Thanks for watching.
Dream of once in a lullaby.